Elena? The attic smelled like old wood and time. Dust danced in the sunlight that peeked through a tiny window. Henry moved slowly, careful not to trip over the boxes stacked around him. His hands, wrinkled and worn, reached for a small brown trunk tucked beneath a quilt from years long gone. He wasn't sure why he came up there. Maybe it was the rain outside. Maybe it was the quiet in the house now that everyone else was gone. Or maybe it was time. Inside the trunk were letters, photos, old books, pieces of a life once lived. He smiled gently at a picture of himself, much younger, standing beside a girl with wild dark hair and the brightest eyes he'd ever seen. Elena. His heart squeezed at the memory of her name. Then, hidden beneath some faded postcards, he found it, a single envelope, yellowed with age. He picked it up carefully. His breath caught in his throat. The letter was addressed to him. The date in the corner read, July 3rd, 1975. His fingers shook. The seal was still unbroken. He stared at the handwriting. It was hers. Elena, he whispered, his voice cracking. For a long moment, he just stood there, frozen in time, the letter resting in his hands like something holy. The attic grew quiet again, the dust settling slowly. And then, fade to black. Some summers stay with you forever. The year was 1975, and the world felt full of color. Birds sang louder. The sun seemed brighter. And for Henry and Elena, the days were golden. They met at college. He was studying literature. She painted in the art building's sunlit corner. From the moment they talked, it was like the world around them melted away. They laughed easily, argued about books, stayed up late watching stars. People called them that couple, always together, always smiling. They had dreams, big ones. We'll live in Paris, Elena would say, twirling in the grass of the campus lawn, her long skirt catching the breeze. I'll write poetry, Henry grinned, watching her like she was a painting come to life. And I'll paint your words, she whispered, touching his face. They talked about a small cottage by the sea, where seagulls cried in the morning and waves hummed them to sleep. They dreamed with open hearts, believing love could make anything possible. But summer didn't last. The letter came in July. Henry had been drafted. The war needed him. He tried to hide how scared he was. Elena didn't try at all. She cried into his shoulder the night before he left, holding him so tight he could barely breathe. At the train station, Henry pulled her close one last time. I'll write you, he promised. Every day if I can. She handed him a small, sealed envelope. Don't open this unless you really miss me, she said with a soft, sad smile. It's not goodbye, Henry. It's just, hold on until we find each other again. He kissed her forehead, tucked the letter deep into his coat pocket, and stepped onto the train. As it pulled away, she ran alongside it for as long as she could, waving through her tears. Later that week, Elena mailed him another letter, pouring her heart into it. How proud she was of him, how scared she felt, how deeply she loved him. She ended it with, if you still love me when this is over, come find me. I'll wait. But that letter never reached him. Sometimes, silence hurts more than words ever could. Every day, they wrote to each other. Henry's letters were filled with poems, memories, and dreams of home. He told her how he carried her letter close to his chest, even though he hadn't opened it yet. He said it gave him strength, like she was with him. Elena's letters were just as full of love. She told him about the little things, how the garden was blooming early, how she saw a street musician playing their song, how she missed the sound of his laugh. But something strange began to happen. Elena stopped getting letters. Days turned into weeks, then months. The mailbox stayed empty. She checked with the post office. Nothing. Just a shrug. She didn't understand. Did he get hurt? Did he forget me? Did he meet someone else? The truth. Her letter, the most important one, had been lost. It ended up stuck in a forgotten bin at a sorting center. Never delivered. Never returned. Henry waited too. No word from Elena. No reply to his poems, his stories, his fears. He began to wonder. Maybe she moved on. Maybe she changed her mind. The silence between them grew heavier than the distance. Eventually, Elena put away her pen. Henry folded his last letter, tucked it into his journal, and stopped writing too. No one said goodbye. They just stopped. And the world grew quiet. Some loves never end. They just go quiet. Time didn't stop for either of them. Henry returned home with his heart heavier than when he left. The world had changed, and so had he. There were no letters waiting. No Elena at the train station. He tried to find her once, but her family had moved. The old number no longer worked. After a while, life carried him forward, even if part of him stayed behind. He met someone kind. He married, had children, built a life. But deep in his heart, a quiet part of him never stopped looking. Every year on the same weekend in spring, he would take a drive to the small seaside town where he and Elena once dreamed of living. There, he'd sit by a little weathered cottage they'd once drawn on napkins and whispered about under the stars. He never told anyone why. He just sat, watching the waves, listening to memories. Elena never moved far from where they fell in love. She became an art teacher, always smiling, always warm with her students. She never married. When asked about love, she'd just say, "Once, a long time ago." Then change the subject. In the bottom drawer of her nightstand, hidden beneath old postcards and paintbrushes, she kept a small black and white photo of Henry, young, smiling, arms around her at the campus garden. She touched it sometimes when the nights felt lonely, whispered his name. They both built lives, good ones, full of meaning and people who cared. But neither of them ever truly let go. Because some loves don't fade. They just go quiet. Some words wait a lifetime to be heard. The attic felt still, almost sacred. Henry sat in his old reading chair by the window, the unopened envelope trembling in his hands. The date, July 3rd, 1975, burned in his mind. He took a slow, deep breath, then carefully peeled it open. The paper inside was soft and yellowed with age, but her handwriting was still beautiful, neat, familiar, like her voice in his mind. He began to read. "My Henry, I don't know if this letter will reach you, or when, but I had to try. I had to tell you, you were everything to me. You still are. If you still love me, if you haven't forgotten, meet me at our bench by the sea. The one we talked about. You'll know the one. Come when the time feels right. Maybe I'll be there. Maybe I won't. But I'll always be waiting in that memory, just in case you come. Your Elena." Henry's hands dropped to his lap. The letter lay open like a doorway to the past. He stared out the window, eyes stinging. He whispered her name again, almost breathless. Elena! After all these years, she still loved him. And she had waited. The letter wasn't just a goodbye. It was hope. A chance. A path back to something he thought was gone forever. When the heart remembers, time doesn't matter. The drive to the coast was long, but Henry didn't feel it. The wind moved through the open car window, the letter resting gently on the seat beside him, just like someone keeping him company. He hadn't been to this place in years, but he remembered every turn, every tree, every smell of salt in the air. His hands gripped the steering wheel tightly. His heart thudded like it used to when he was a boy walking to her front door. The little town hadn't changed much. Shops with faded signs, children playing on bikes, a seagull calling overhead. And then, there it was. The bench. Old, a little worn, but still facing the sea. Just like they had imagined. He stood there for a moment, not ready to sit. His eyes searched the shore, the path, every passing face. No sign of her. Was she still alive? Did she even remember? Had she moved on, like everyone else? He didn't have the answers. But he had come. He sat slowly, the letter in his lap, fingers brushing its edges. The ocean stretched endlessly in front of him, waves rolling in and out like soft breathing. The sun climbed across the sky as the hours slipped by. He waited and waited. People came and went. A couple laughed nearby. Children chased a dog across the sand. But he didn't move. He just watched and hoped. Because sometimes hope is all you have. And sometimes it's enough. Some moments don't need words. Just a heartbeat. The sky had started to turn gold, the waves glowing in the light of the setting sun. Henry sat still on the bench, his hands folded over the letter. His eyes were tired from watching, but he couldn't look away from the path that led to the shore. Then, something moved in the corner of his eye. A figure walking slowly, gracefully. She wore a red scarf, fluttering gently in the wind. Her hair was silver now, and she leaned slightly as she walked. But Henry knew. His heart knew. Elena. She saw him. They both froze for a moment, just looking at each other across the years, across everything lost and found again. No one spoke. Tears filled her eyes, spilling down her cheeks as she stepped closer. She sat beside him, shaking, both of them silent, their hands just inches apart. Then she whispered, soft and breaking, "You read it." Henry nodded, his voice low, full of everything he'd carried for 50 years. 50 years late, but right on time. She let out a soft, shaky laugh through her tears. Their hands met in the middle, warm and trembling. No more words were needed. They just sat, side by side, watching the sea, letting the silence say everything their hearts had been holding all along. Some hearts never forget, no matter how much time passes. The sun was dipping lower, painting the sky with soft pinks and oranges. Henry and Elena sat close on the bench, their hands still gently holding. At first, the words came slowly, like old friends unsure how to greet each other after so long. "I thought I'd lost you," Henry said quietly, his eyes searching hers. "Me too," Elena replied, her voice trembling. All those years, the silence was the hardest part. They told each other about the missing letters, the heartbreak of not knowing. how they both waited and wondered if the other had stopped loving them. "I never stopped," Henry said. "Neither did I," Elena answered, tears shining in her eyes. They shared stories they had never told anyone, the dreams of Paris, the little cottage by the sea, the songs they'd promised to sing together. Sometimes they laughed, soft and sweet, at the silly things they'd planned. Other times, the tears came, soaking into their hands. But through it all, there was love. Strong, patient, and quietly waiting. They held each other's hands like they were holding their whole lives. "We have time now," Henry whispered. "Yes," Elena smiled, leaning her head on his shoulder. The sun disappeared behind the waves. The sky darkened gently, and for the first time in 50 years, they were finally together. Some stories don't end. They only begin again. Henry and Elena, now together, sitting side by side on a cozy porch. Their hands rest softly in each other's. They laugh, sharing a cup of tea, watching the sunset paint the sky. Then, pictures of them traveling, walking hand in hand through the streets of Paris. Henry reading poetry aloud, Elena smiling beside him, their faces glowing with joy. Back home, they visit the old college campus. They sit on the bench by the sea, just like they promised all those years ago. Elena brushes her fingers along the weathered wood, Henry's eyes shining with quiet happiness. A soft voice speaks over the images, the voice of Henry, or maybe Elena. Sometimes, love doesn't fade. It waits, patiently, quietly, until the words finally come. The final image lingers on their hands, intertwined, proof that true love can wait, no matter how long it takes. The end. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more stories. Turn on your notification bell so you never miss an upload. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.